Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is May the 3rd, 2024. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Let's see here. I went ahead and took a personal day on this fine Friday. Hopefully, it's been a fine Fri-yay to you. Happy Fri-yay. There we go. Had to get that in there. But yeah, I took the day. I've been really enjoying it. Just kind of been relaxing, getting some naps in. I feel pretty restful so far. But let's see. Yeah, going into this weekend. But let's see. Food corner. Yes. I haven't eaten too much. Kind of been a little bit low key. But I had a couple of cinnamon raisin bagels for breakfast. One with cream cheese, one with butter, because I ran out of cream cheese. You hate to see it. And then I had an orange. So nice little brekkie there. Let's see here. There's really not much else to really report in about. Nothing to really squawk about on my end. So let's go ahead and do our startup, and then we'll get into some news. Ooh, okay. Excuse me. Our first story comes from the BBC. Mexican police search for missing foreign tourists. Mexican police have arrested three people over the disappearance of two Australians and an American in Baja California, one of the excuse me, one of the country's most violent states. Brothers Jake and Callum Robinson from Perth and American Jack Carter Road were on a surf trip and have not been seen since Saturday, according to the Robinson family. Authorities have discovered abandoned tents, a vehicle, and a phone linked to the missing foreigners. A search operation is underway along Mexico's northwest coast. According to local media reports, the tourists were last sighted near a popular camping spot in Punta San Jose, near the port city of Ensenada. Deborah Robinson raised alarm over their disappearance in a Facebook post on Thursday, appealing for information over the whereabouts of her two sons, who are both in their 30s. They were due to book into an Airbnb in Rosarito after their camping weekend, but they did not show up. Callum is a type 1 diabetic, so there's also a medical concern. Let's see here. So, I mean, they're still looking for them. Unfortunately, that's very sad that, like, they were able to, kind of get the back end of, like, what an investigation is kind of supposed to do. Like, hey, we got the people who did the crime, but we don't have, any proof of life. We don't have, hopefully not a body. Hopefully they find, these guys alive. But, definitely a very stressful, very harrowing situation, I'm sure. But, this was I guess a big revelation in that, and in this case, so wanted to talk about that. I mean, I just heard about it, but you know what I mean. You know what I'm trying to say, hopefully. But yeah, just wanted to put that on the radar. Let's go ahead and move on to the next thing. From Euronews, EU unveils 1 billion euro aid package for Lebanon in bid to curb refugee flows. Sorry, it's always weird when you like say something like a billion and you're not saying dollars as an American, right? Like it's like what? What am I supposed to say again? Is it the pound? No, it's the euro. Okay. Um, the European Union will provide 1 billion euros in financial aid to Lebanon over 3 years to prop up the country's economy. I'm sorry, and help prevent a surge in refugees leaving for Europe. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced the move on Thursday, morning, following a meeting with Lebanese caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati and Cypriot President Nikos. I'm gonna botch this. Christodoulides. Gotta see that again. I bet maybe in Lebanon's capital Beirut. The financial envelope, made up entirely of grants and to be dispersed by 2027, will help Lebanon strengthen basic services such as education, social protection, and health, and spur economic reforms in the crisis-stricken country, von der Leyen said. But some 3/4 of the cash, a total of 736 million euros, will be specifically dedicated to helping Lebanon grapple with challenges it faces in welcoming Syrian refugees. So it is like you have to slot this money and use it for this. Let's see here. There was a little bit more I wanted to read, right? It also follows a string of agreements signed over the last year between Brussels and African countries in a bid to stem migration into Europe. So it's one of those things where it's like, hey, I think this overall is one of those things that it works out good, right? Like this is, the EU or the, European countries or whatever, coming together, giving out money to other countries, and that money is helping them, right? But that stipulation of saying, hey, you need to make sure that this is going to, making sure that, Syrian refugees are taken care of and yada, yada, yada. It just has this tinge and this edge of like, yeah, we want to kind of have this arrangement that you keep funneling all these Syrian refugees and none of them come here because we don't want to deal with them. We don't want to see them. We want that to be a your problem and specifically have it be a your problem only. Which to me, it just feels icky to kind of see that for what it is. I mean, at least that's how I'm interpreting it. That being said, though, is it better than, like, let's say what the UK is doing with, like, the whole Rwanda thing? Yes, it is better because at the end of the day, I've said it before, I'll keep saying it till we're not. We live in a capitalist society. So if you're throwing money at your problems, it's better than, the alternative of like doing a draconian option. And especially with the UK thing, that's a draconian option that is a waste of money. So yeah, I mean, this is something, and I feel like it's relevant news to at least bring up and cover. So that's why we're doing it. But I can't take that part away. But also to add too with Lebanon, I mean, they have a lot of economic hardships. I mean, you could add who doesn't, what country doesn't. But definitely Lebanon has had a lot going on. So this money is going to be very helpful, very useful. But it's just a shame that it comes with these kind of strings of just like, yeah, make sure you keep those Syrians where they're at, where you're in Lebanon. Okay, thank you. See you again later. So yeah, I mean, there also has been pushes, to hopefully get them back to return to Syria, but then it would kind of remain to be seen that if the situation in Syria is still chaotic and tumultuous, that you're just kind of kicking that over and over again, which is once again why, the EU is making these kind of moves of saying, hey, we will just give you money to make this your problem and less of our problem. So yeah, the beat goes on, but I felt like this was a relevant development to talk about. Let's move on to People, I guess like People magazine, but like online. Another American arrested in Turks and Caicos for allegedly having ammunition could face 12 years. For the second time this month, an American tourist has been arrested in Turks and Caicos and faces over a decade in prison for allegedly bringing ammunition into the Caribbean territory. Tyler Winrich, 31, of Virginia, was charged with possession of ammunition on April 23rd by the Criminal Investigations Department of the Royal Turks and Caicos Islands Police Force, the agency said in a release. Winrich appeared in court and was remanded into custody prior to a sufficiency hearing in June, according to the release. Police say that Winrich traveled to Grand Turk on a cruise and allegedly had ammunition while going through a security checkpoint. A 2022 law passed in Turks and Caicos prohibits people from carrying guns or ammunition and comes with a minimum prison sentence of 12 years. Now, he was on this trip with his wife, who was also arrested, but then she was like let go. They said like, okay, you're fine, but we are keeping your husband, and he is going to be, fully, processed legally. Let's see here. Yeah. NBC 10 Boston reported that the charges against Valerie were dropped and she was allowed to return to the U.S. To be with the couple's 2 children, but Ryan still faces criminal charges. CBS reported he was released on a $15,000 bond, but must remain on the island as the case moves forward. Ryan told NBC 10 that it was a bonehead mistake. They were hunting ammunition rounds that I used for white-tailed deer, he told the outlet. I had no idea that they were in there. And I believe that, because at the end of the day, they're fucking bullets, and you kind of need to have a goddamn weapon system to match said bullets for it to be a thing, right? But you can understand that, that Turk and Caicos has this law and they're going to fucking stick it. That's why this Rinrich guy is not the only guy that has been jammed up by this. And I wanted to kind of make sure I covered them before we moved on. One of the men, Brian Hagerich of Pennsylvania, faces a sentencing hearing in May, spoke to NBC 10. It's incredibly scary, Hagerich told the outlet. You just don't know what the next day may bring, what path this may take. You're in a completely different culture, a different country by yourself. I'm just anxious. I'm just very anxious and eager to get home to my family. This has been too long. It's just had so much irreparable harm to my family. And then last year, another American, Michael Grimm, was sentenced to 6 months after pleading guilty to possession of ammunition. So it's just one of those things where you got to be really fucking careful. In some ways, I kind of liken this to the Brittany Griner thing. You got shit in your bag, you get fucking caught abroad, and it's like boom, boom, boom. It's over for you. I know you could get into like, oh, was it an accident or not, blah, blah, blah. But like, at the end of the day, you do have to be very fucking careful. It's just not a non-action going from one place to another. It's not like you're just going down the street. And I'm not doing this to like, really like blame the people involved here. People are imperfect, and hopefully the legal system acknowledges that and like doesn't actually give Winrich like 12 goddamn years. That's, to me, is insane. It doesn't really add up. But I'll definitely try to keep you posted and informed on anything I find out, any updates. So we have one more thing to cover, and then I will let you go for this fun Friday. Let's see, but you know what that means. It's break time. So let's go ahead and take our break, and then we'll go ahead and finish this out. All right. Our last story comes from the Associated Press. Democratic U.S. Representative Henry Cuellar of Texas and his wife are indicted over ties to Azerbaijan. Democratic U.S. Representative Henry Cuellar of Texas and his wife were indicted on conspiracy and bribery charges and taken into custody Friday in connection with the U.S. Department of Justice probe into the couple's ties to the former Soviet Republic of Azerbaijan. From 2014 to 2021, Cuellar, 68, and his wife accepted nearly $600,000 in bribes from Azerbaijan-controlled energy company and a bank in Mexico. And in exchange, Cuellar agreed to advance the interests of the country and the bank in the U.S., according to the indictment. Among other things, Cuellar agreed to influence legislation favorable to Azerbaijan and deliver a pro-Azerbaijan speech on the floor of the U.S. House, the indictment states. The Department of Justice said the couple surrendered to authorities on Friday and were taken into custody. They made an initial appearance before a federal judge in Houston and were released on a $100,000 bond, the DOJ said. The longtime congressman released a statement Friday saying he and his wife, Imelda Cuellar, 67, are innocent of these allegations. Everything I've done in Congress has been to serve the people of South Texas, Cuellar said. Before I took action, I proactively sought legal advice from the House of Ethics Committee, who gave me more than one written opinion, along with an additional opinion from a national law firm. Furthermore, we requested a meeting with Washington, D.C. prosecutors to explain the facts, and they refused to discuss the case with us or hear our side. Most likely because they have more than enough damning evidence, and they don't really need to hear from you, dog. Like, they want to hear a plea from you at some point, most likely, but that's probably it. But in addition to bribery and conspiracy, the couple face charges, including Fri-yay conspiracy, acting as agents of foreign principals and money laundering. If convicted, they face up to decades in prison and forfeiture of any property linked to proceeds from the alleged crime. The payments to the couple initially went through a Texas-based shell company owned by Imelda Cuellar and two of the couple's children, according to the indictment. That company received payments from the Azerbaijan energy company of $25,000 per month under a sham contract, purportedly in exchange for unspecified strategic consulting and advising services. To me, this just like really felt like it was very akin to like the Bob Menendez thing, especially because we're talking about like two Democratic guys. So it's like, oh yeah, you would think like these guys are gonna be cool and like these are like morally like balanced, ethically healed people, and it's like, no man, like everyone's literally looking to get their bag, and you know these guys were gonna get their bag through Azerbaijan, and for Bob Menendez it was like him and Turkey, you make your moves. The indictment also alleges an Azerbaijani diplomat referred to Henry Cuellar in text messages as El Jefe, or boss, and also that a member of Cuellar's staff sent multiple emails to officials at the Department of State pressuring them to renew a U.S. passport for an Azerbaijani diplomat's daughter. And that's the thing too. It's always like the lightest shit that winds up like implicating you. I'm sure there's other breadcrumbs and things that they caught, but it's like, yeah, man. Like once you kind of are on the radar, you're on the radar, and you're not really gonna know exactly what you did to set it off. But it's like it's just a matter of time. Like I feel like these guys think that they're above the law and think that they will never get caught. But no, you do, and you are gonna have to wind up, facing, at least a trial for your shit. We'll see what happens. Like I said, he might wind up, pleading out. He might wind up, beating it. Who knows? I mean, shit. Going back to Menendez, he beat his first corruption case, which I was like, that's crazy. But yeah, that's the news for the day. I feel good wrapping it up there. If you'd like to help out, support the effort, I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/IsaiahNews. Become a newsie today. Free ways to hit me up, isaiahnews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. And hopefully you're subscribed to the YouTube. Please consider doing so. If not, please do the same for the Spotify. Trying to get to 69 subscribers. Get that nice. And then also hit the like button. Leave a comment. Reviews, all the stars. It really just helps out a lot. Sharing is caring. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.